But this ship knew about it. It knows my fears. It knows my secrets. Gets inside your head and it shows you.
I wasn't going to tell you this. I've been listening to the distress signal. And I think I made a mistake in the translation.
Go on.
I thought it said liberate me. Save me. But it's not me. It's liberate tutte me. Save yourself. And it gets worse. There. I think that says X in Ferris. Save yourself from hell.
All right, everybody, welcome back to our sweet episode of Citizen Frame. No, this isn't Mission Impossible, but I promise you we are getting to that. Sense of urgency with Mission Impossible is because the new one's coming out. However, we can delay that a little bit as well because we found that new people, our listeners, don't really grab the new releases as fast as we thought just because they still want to see the film themselves. And as you know, we're spoiler-filled and we don't give a fuck. So
beware.
Yeah, so there'll probably be a delay in the Mission Impossible anyway. And this month and next month and that month after that, we got sequels coming out that we got to get to. It's going to be busy.
Final Destinations as well.
Final Destinations, yeah. We're going to do the retrospective of the Final Destinations. We got Meg 2 coming back. We got just a bunch of retrospectives coming out.
Meg 2, Megan 2, yeah.
Way to keep up there, Bronco.
I thought you were talking about the Meg with Jason Statham. I thought there was a third one coming out.
I wish we're getting new Meg.
Right.
Megs are classics. Fucking classics.
Jason Statham.
All right. That was terrible. Jesus Christ. That was terrible.
It was better than your Arnie impression.
That was the worst Jason Statham. That was good. My fucking nailed it last time. Fucking brilliant. Right there. I went, but wow, my God, Arnie's back in the studio here at Citizen Frame.
Yeah, right.
Right next to Clint Eastwood.
I think you did the Cardley Lan as well the other day.
Yep.
Man of many talents.
Man of many voices. Exactly.
Master of none.
About time you recognize that.
Yeah.
It's too bad I wasn't on fucking Neighbors, though. Otherwise, I'd be a fucking genius.
Or Home and Away, or Prisoner Cell Block H, or Doctor Who.
We're here to, this is my life, people. We want to get to this one a long time ago. We just kept blowing it off and don't know why we have. And it is a little science fiction horror film that came out a few years back. I think 96, I want to say, 97. It was called The Event Horizon. I'm a big fan of this director, believe it or not, because he kind of knows who he is and where he wants to go. I thought he would have gone to a different direction when we were about to talk Event Horizon, maybe more darker stuff, but he never really did. He really likes his B horror camp, which I respect. A lot of ways, Carpenter's like that, you know? So, and he keeps his budgets within with a reasonable budget. He doesn't deal with these $300 million mega blockbusters and stuff. He keeps it kind of below average. And he started out, his name is Paul W.S. Anderson, not to be confused with Paul Anderson. A lot of people do get confused with the names, but he is Paul W.S. Anderson. He started out, he did a film, I think with Jude Law, one of his first films called Shopping, which is quite good. You guys should check it out. But then he kind of catapulted when he was asked to direct this little bad boy, The Event Horizon. Now, the movie did tank, and there's a funny story behind this one. It's kind of a reverse, Big Brother, edit the film now kind of mentality. So what happened here is this film was 30 minutes longer than the one we see. The one we have was about an hour and a half, give or take a few moments there. And he was asked to cut out 30 minutes from it, and that's a lot to cut from a film.
Okay.
And he agreed to do quite a bit of it, but to this day, he regrets cutting at least 10. He cut 10 minutes too much, he feels. Now, when you watch this film, knowing that now, we always talk about A to C. How do you get the A to C? Well, we want to see the B. This movie's missing quite a few B's.
Yes.
and this is probably most likely the reason. But that being said, the film works phenomenally. Now, the movie cost $60 million, and back then it's quite a bit. It only made 25, but about a year or two later, Blu-ray and so forth, movie catapulted. It was became a really quick cult hit real fast.
Yeah.
And the head of production at the time for Paramount, who he told him to do the cuts. His name was John Goldwyn. John Goldwyn. He actually said that it was unfair what we did because because of the popularity of this film. All of a sudden, he felt it deserves the director's cut, and they can't find the footage. Rumor has it there's footage around. Rumor has it somebody has found the VHS shot of it that the studio had. And it's not like Paul Anderson doesn't want to do it. He says he does want to see get the uncut stuff on here, but that's why there's been a delay trying to find a solid copy of it. I never understand these studios who make the directors cut their films and then the footage disappears. Why can't they just keep a little archive somewhere, uncut stuff? Can't be that hard, especially in this day and age with everything stored on USB sticks. As fuck's sake.
Yeah.
That we can't just have it hidden there if we ever decide, if something like this happens again with Paramount head John Goldwyn could just go into the archives and go, here's the lost footage. Why don't you go ahead and recut it, make it your own again.
They destroy the footage on purpose because they dislike it so much. Back in the 60s, now this is a serious Doctor Who reference, and there have been multiple episodes of Doctor Who which were wiped by the BBC and no longer exist. So sometimes this does happen. Apparently the footage here in Event Horizon, which was cut, consists mainly of, the recordings of the original crew of the Event Horizon, and apparently they are extremely gory. People like Jason Isaacs has said, because what they did was they hired porn actors, and some of the stuff is apparently, they're depicting hell, and apparently they didn't hold back, and apparently it's proper crazy stuff according to the likes of Jason Isaacs and stuff. He said a lot of it was probably illegal as well. So yeah, it sounds pretty nuts.
Yeah.
But I do know there have been calls for many years for a director's cut.
Well, let's piggyback on the Doctor Who thing. I can respect the BBC.
I knew you were going to say that.
So let's get that out of the way right now. Thank you, BBC.
I knew you were going to say that, but yeah, total morons. You should always sort of back these things up. Like you said, in today's age, even back then, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, yeah, I mean, it's such a shame.
Well, you couldn't back then, even in the 80s, and maybe even the 90s. That could have been misspoken with the digital age, because you got to realize everything was kept on film, and film is very dangerous.
Yeah, in terms of temperature.
Around. Yeah, so the reason most of the stuff wasn't because of ego. Well, I'm not saying it's not all ego, but it was because it's too dangerous to keep. So
with the BBC,
that's why a lot of directors...
With the BBC and Doctor Who, it was a cost-cutting exercise, I believe, because those early episodes were recorded on videotape. So they basically taped over them, essentially. Yeah, total stupidity in retrospect. Well, it wasn't just Doctor Who, by the way, it was a lot of other series.
Well, I'm sure that's the way it was generally all over whatever country is. I'm sure it happens in the US as well.
And apparently Paul W. Anderson has actually literally travelled about the world looking for lost footage of this. But yes, as you were saying as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. I mean, I was more... Well, we'll dive into it more, what I think's cut, but it was more about the big hell orgy scene. I don't care. I wanted to see more of the characters, more of before the shit went down, the story, or something like that.
The backstory.
More of the story and the actors that are focused on in this film, because I do think characters like Stark and Cooper kind of lost. So, but let's just jump into it.
I would just like to jump in as well.
I talked about this.
Just what you were saying earlier on about it tanking. This actually replaced Titanic because it was held up. And yes, it did tank, but apparently Kurt Russell saw it and said to Paul W. Anderson, yeah, okay, it might do well straight away, but don't worry about it. This will grow. In 15 years' time, this will be a cult classic. And he was right.
He showed it to Kurt Russell because he wanted Kurt Russell for his next film, which is called Soldier.
Yeah.
and that's how Kurt Russell got to see it, and got Kurt Russell to do Soldier, which is, I think, another underrated little film. But
apparently Clive
they both
Barker
did- they did
was
there.
also an advisor in pre-production as well. No surprise, you know.
Well, yeah, it's just a lot of Hellraiser in this, that's for sure. But yeah, Paul Anderson, God, that was a long intro, but I want to give you guys some shout out because I like his stuff. I just watched his new one yesterday, In the Land of Gods or something like that. It was kind of forgetful, to be honest.
Right.
But he's really hit or miss director.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy seems to be kind of bullied a bit with the editing from the higher ups. And when he did Alien versus Predator, which I give it a pass, I really enjoyed that film. It's full of mazes and cool monsters. And the only problem is I wanted an R-rated version, and there's definitely a cut out there that we all deserve to see. Because to me, Alien or Predator movies should be R.
Yeah, well, agree.
Or hard 18. Yeah, so that's. And so, but again, even without that, I really enjoyed that film. And then in case he's mainly known for the entire Resident Evil series with his wife Mila Jovovich. Again, a wonderful franchise. He did a nice job. He didn't direct one of them, but otherwise he pretty much did all of them. He did the original Mortal Kombat, which everyone seems to really like.
I remembered at the time.
He did Death Race. Yeah, he did Death Race with Jason Statham. He did Monster Hunter, which I actually really enjoy. Underrated little gem. We can skip Pompeii. That was terrible. But the guy's got, you get my point when he does like B-schlock fun. And
yeah, I've certainly nothing against them. And certainly the ones I've seen, the likes of Mortal Kombat, even Alien versus Predator, Resident Evil, they are what they are, and they're enjoyable sort of genre B-movie type films. So I've certainly nothing against them, and I certainly have enjoyed some of his work, especially this one.
Yeah, there's no ego with him. That's what I could tell you about him. There's no ego. And he keeps his budgets minimal, so studios don't really hound him for editing. That could be another reason. But now let's jump into it. Finally, we're jumping into it after 12 minutes. Here we go. The Event Horizon. Lawrence Fishburne, Sam Neill, Kathleen Quinlan, Jolie Richardson, Richard T. Jones, Jack Noseworthy, Jason Isaacs, and then always nice to see John Pertwee. We got Miller, Weir, Peter Stark, Cooper, Justin, DJ, and Smith. Minimal cast, and which I always like. I love the opening score of this. I've always did. I love when the Paramount logo gets involved in the credits. On the Paramount Mountain, it pans up, and now we're in space. Great opening score. It's Michael Kamen, but he used a band called Orbital to do some of the score work.
They are
really cool.
British, certainly at the time, they were a British dance rave group. So very, very good. Yeah, I've always liked Orbital, even, aside from this.
Yeah, in the mid-'90s, you had these bands like Gravity Kills and Front 242 and Orbital, this new age techno thingy coming out. And it's got kind of cool stuff. Yeah, the rave. Bunch of cool stuff. So we got 2015, we colonized the moon. Nope, we haven't. In 2032, commercial mining on Mars. And in 2040, a deep space vessel, Event Horizon, was built to explore boundaries of the solar system. It disappeared around Neptune.
Yep.
Now it's 7 years later. 7 years later, he gets a call. They get a distress call from the old Event Horizon. And that's where our story takes off. Boom. The Lewis and Clark is set to go investigate. There you go.
Yep.
Got Sam Neill. I like my Sam Neill.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've always liked Sam Neill. From I first saw him, actually, as the Antichrist, Damien, in the third Omen film, The Final Conflict. Yeah. He's actually originally from Northern Ireland as well. But then I think when he was very young, his family moved to New Zealand. But yeah, I've always liked him, Yeah,
it's nice to see him. And it's funny, we talk Sam Neill, and I'm watching this film for the first time. But when we do this podcast, we talk a lot of films, clearly.
Yes.
And there's a couple of moments when he's becoming possessed. He's becoming the bad dude.
Yeah.
And he's all cut up. He looks like a pinless pinhead.
Yes, totally.
And he's doing his thing. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of his performance. And I promise you, he carried this performance over from the movie we talked about a couple of years ago called In the Mouth of Madness.
Yep. He even has the insane laugh and the sort of scream the whoa that he does.
Yeah.
Whenever he's properly losing the plot in both films. So yes, there's definitely a bit of in the mouth of madness here with his performance.
This film is pretty much an homage to Carpenter, to Ridley Scott, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of this opening sequence where we meet the whole crew. It's kind of reversed. Instead of meeting them after cryo sleep, we meet them before they go into cryo sleep. But this whole introduction scenario, even the hulls and the lunching, the eating area, it looked like a nod to the Nostramos.
Definitely. And even the fact that the crew are very, sort of working class, just there to do a job, that sort of thing. The look of the ship, it's very grimy. It's, haunted house in space. So yeah, definitely. I mean, this film has often been sort of called by myself included, Alien meets Hellraiser. And I think that's totally intentional.
Oh yeah, it's no way it's not. He's a fanboy, yes. And you can tell by a lot of his work, especially when he ended up doing Alien versus Predator.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I do like the intro where you quickly meet all the characters and you kind of know exactly what they do and who does what.
Snappy.
And yeah, quick 5-minute intro, we're done. Get them into hyperspace.
Yeah.
And I do like the data dump where Weir explains to them he tries to explain to them it's not hyperspace is what the Event Horizon is built for.
Yeah.
Hyperspace is impossible. Yeah. Any Star Wars fans must be pissed.
Yeah, no. He basically does it with the model, the piece of paper with the sort of like page 3 type model on it, and but apparently that's been it's.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
But he says hyperspace. But he says hyperspace is based on speed.
Yes.
And he says that's not what that's impossible. It's just wouldn't work. So what they do is he talks about this gravity drive he built, which folds space. What's he saying?
It's basically folding.
What's the closest route between 2 points?
Yeah.
Straight line, or you fold it until they merge into one.
It's basically folding space to take a shortcut from two distances in space, and it's also powered by a black hole, which is antimatter, essentially. But it is a really good way of making it clear to the audience without firstly condescending them, but also overloading them with mumbo-jumbo pseudoscience.
That's the funny thing you bring that up, because they kind of plant that. They actually do that when Lawrence Fishburne, the captain, says in layman's terms, can you explain this to us? And he tries to explain it, but it's not, it's in fucking jibber jabber. So Miller says, please, again, layman's terms. And that's where he folds the piece of paper.
Yeah, Miller's basically speaking for the audience. Yeah.
Even the characters don't want to do this mission because they're about to go back home. Well, they're on leave. They're on like a holiday. And they were taken out of it. Same concept, what happened with Alien.
Yep.
When they got a distress signal, they got a distress signal from the Nostromo, and they have to they have to go a little overtime here to go see what's going on on this alien planet. Same concept with this one. As you speak about the film, I can certainly see why alien enthusiasts love this film.
Kathleen Quinlan's character, she is missing her son's birthday and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's where I kind of have a problem with some of it, because you got Peters, who's Quinlan, you got Weir, and you got Miller.
Yes.
And those are the guys who get and Justin. So you kind of got those guys who kind of have their stories there. But I do think Smith, DJ, Cooper, and Stark are kind of left in the... That's why I'm thinking editing thing. Problems.
Possibly, yeah.
But
Cooper has a bit more to do. Although he is more of a sort of comedy sort of sidekick, with like it's almost like the comedy black guy, with the quirky sort of personality.
Yeah. And I do like Richard T. Jones, who plays the part. However, I think he's done a misjustice in the part because of the fact really gained nothing to do, but especially the scene where we'll get to it, which kind of it's not needed.
I would have liked his role to have been written more straight and serious, where
it should have been. Period.
Yeah.
I can see a smart ass like, Hudson's character in Aliens, and bring some comic relief in that way. But the whole thing when he gets jettisoned into space really is like, this is
It
not
feels out of place.
suited for the Event Horizon. Way out of place. But I do like how the ship, when they finally get there and they almost crash into it because it's all cloudy and stormy and crap. Again, the 90s was an age where you had the blending of practical still with some CGI.
Yes.
Now, believe it or not, there's very little CGI in this besides the floating crap and stuff like that, and some of the makeup. But it's that transition phase where the studios were testing it together. And I'll tell you what, the practical effects, especially with the two ships and the design of the Event Horizon, it's just gorgeous.
Great model work.
And then when they finally clear the clouds, and there's the Event Horizon right in front of them. There's storm clouds and there's lightning and it's just beautiful. It's just really nicely shot. And even by today's standards, I still take this kind of blend of practical and a little bit of CGI to introduce us to this environment rather than all in CGI.
Totally.
I just it takes me in.
Yeah, totally.
And because I think it's because I don't know, maybe because I was raised on it. I'm not, and the spoiled generation hopefully sees this stuff and appreciates it, which I think they do. Event Horizon is quite popular, but
I would say that as well, that obviously CGI was in its infancy, at this point in time. So the CGI actually does distract a little at times from the brilliant practical and model effects. It doesn't, distract too much, but it does niggle a slight bit looking at it, in 2025.
Yeah, you see that quite a bit with some of your reviews here, and I'm the opposite. I can understand when it was filmed, how it was filmed, and I'm not going to judge it based on this new technology that's out now. I mean,
no, get it?
That's not fair that's not fair to the artists, and it doesn't take me out. But that's different. It doesn't take me out because
it doesn't take me out of the story. But
you're just a spoiled prick.
No bullshit. It doesn't take me out of the story, but it is noticeable. I would say, but not in a way that it's going to ruin it for me. It's not.
When Anderson talked about adding 10 minutes, this is the 10 minutes I was talking about, because they attach themselves to the ship, and then the quick discussion. There's the hull of the ship, and then you've got the main engine, the driving force of the ship in the front, and then you got the cabin's quarters in the back, which acts as an escape pod if need be. So then you quickly cut to over here, and they're over here, and they're over here. I'm like, what the fuck?
You do have to pay attention.
There's a lot of that.
It is quite.
Yeah.
I would say as well that the engine of the heart of the Event Horizon looks absolutely gorgeous. Great, obviously all practical as well. With that big orb, spinning around and stuff. I mean, it looks sinister.
Yeah, you're talking about the core of the gravity drive.
Yes, the black hole with the black hole.
Or as I like to call it, the Lament configuration kit.
100%. And apparently they wanted to go even further as a reference to and make it even more similar to the Lament configuration, but budget didn't allow it. So they had to cut back.
I'm glad they did it. I like what they've got here. It's all practical, besides the goo, the water that Justin gets sucked into.
Yes.
But I like the set. I like. There's a great shot where Justin is I believe it's Justin. He's going to the core. He's by himself. He's going to the gravity drive because he's the engineer of the group.
Yeah.
And he's heading in there. And I do like how everyone, exactly what everyone does. I like the fact who's the engineer. I like who the doctor is. I like who's in charge. I like that. And it's not muddled.
No. And it's done well.
Yeah, and they call him Baby Bear because he's the youngest of the team.
Yeah.
But I liked he's walking, and is this tunnel, and it's going in circles, and it's got these little triangular, and there's lights coming out of these triangular holes and spinning. It's something like you see at a funhouse or a carnival.
And apparently, in real life, whenever they were filming this, apparently it was an absolute nightmare to walk through. In reality, so they had to adjust it.
It would. That's what I'm saying. It mind fucks you. And seeing this on the big screen would probably still do
It's
it too.
trippy. Yeah.
You know? But I do like that whole, and then obviously he gets sucked in. What an idiot. Who would touch that? They do this in all films, don't they? They what's this for? I'm gonna put my hand
They
in
have to forward
What
the
the
plot.
fuck?
So yeah, you might as well get the biggest
Throw us-
dipshit of the crew, the young naive one, to get him to do it.
Well, then maybe that explains it. He's the young naive
Yeah.
one,
Exactly.
you know?
Mhm.
But this is when the ship starts taking over, but the gateway opens up, and then when they pull him out, everything goes to shit
Yes.
at this point, because the gateway, when it's liquefied, when the thing stops spinning and it's liquefied, that's the black hole.
Yeah.
That's open. That gateway is open now,
Yes.
and that black hole takes you to somewhere you don't want to go. Clearly, yeah, pretty much to hell.
Yep.
And at this point, I like this part where he gets sucked in. The Event Horizon pretty much knocks out everything on the Lewis and Clark, forcing the entire crew onto the Event Horizon. So I like that
Tricked them.
where that bridge. How do you get that entire crew onto the ship so we can take them all out? And that's what happens. The ship pretty much cripples
Yeah.
the Lewis and Clark of oxygen, I believe.
Mhm. Yeah. And then they all have to come on and sort of, but yet Sean Pertwee is working to try and get the Lewis and Clark, back up and running, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's him and Cooper's job.
Yes.
They're like the
Engineers.
Engineer guys, fixer upper guys.
Yeah. And Sean Pertwee is great in these types of roles as, the sort of, the cocky sort of, take no shit, blue collar type guy,
Well, he's the key. He's the Hudson of the group.
Yes.
He'll bitch and moan about it, but he'll do his job and he'll do it well.
Mm-hmm. But he'll take no shit at the same time.
Dog soldiers,
Yeah.
perfect example. Now, I when you dissect the film a bit, it's funny because you got Peters, who's your boy is in a wheelchair. It was as we're introduced in the footage, but that's why Event Horizon keeps playing with her, seeing a boy with damaged legs. It's her son.
Yep.
And this will be her untimely death by following her son. And then you've got Justin, who is reminds me of the Kane character from Alien.
Yep.
So, because he's the one, he's pretty much the bait.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see this video. This is the video you're probably talking about, where there's a lot more director's cut. And it's very well cut because you can see gore, but there's some orgy fucking and some cannibalizing going on here.
Totally.
It is, even for what you do see, it's disturbing.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could watch 20 more minutes of it.
Apparently, yeah, according to Jason Isaacs, yeah, a lot of it, basically it was hardcore, and it was performed mostly by porn actors that they hired for it.
There you go. Sorry, man. It's too bad you didn't get your big break was on the editing room floor, Trevor. Too bad you didn't get your, dicks and assholes.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Sadly, it was all chopped to pieces. But yeah, even what you do glimpse at, and I think it's in many ways.
You think it's better that way?
In many ways, yeah. It's not gratuitous, and it's sort of, it's left open to interpretation, in your imagination, based on these glimpses that we do get, which are pretty shocking, even though they're very brief. But you just know that something real nasty has went on here. It's enough.
So yeah, I know it is. And maybe that's why there's not a sense of urgency to find it, because maybe people are content with what we got.
Yeah.
But I am curious. Don't get me wrong.
Yes. Well, then it's done its job, and it's done it well, because I think with it being cut like that, I know there was other reasons for it being cut, possibly. Obviously, I don't know, I wasn't there, but what we do get does leave you wanting more and make you curious. So it works very well in that respect.
So you have Miller who's seeing things too. Is soldier buddy who got burned alive slowly?
Yeah,
sounds terrible.
That he's haunted by.
And then you've got Justin who's pretty much in comatose. You've got Miller seeing his dead buddy. You've got Weir seeing his dead wife, who we find out tried to commit suicide.
She did commit suicide
before the trip. No, she didn't. She tried to.
No, she's dead through suicide.
No, she's not. No.
Well, then how did she die?
When she dies on the ship in Hell Party. That's no, because remember in the opening scene where he gets up
Yes.
Weir and he's shaving and he looks at the bathtub and he can only look at it for so long because he found her in the bathtub. She tried to commit suicide years before this happened.
Yeah.
And now he's lost her again through the Event Horizon.
Right. My understanding was that, yes, obviously she is dead, but that she actually died through suicide, possibly on the Event
because
Horizon.
how would he? No, that's how he knows. That's how he looks at the bathtub and everything.
Yeah.
Because she tried that once before. And so she went on this trip. I think there's more dialogue we're missing. But my theory is that she went on this trip to kind of clear her head. But obviously,
she went to hell?
Clearly didn't work. But that's why he has that guilt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, the entity that has become the Event Horizon is playing on all of their sort of past demons.
Well, yeah, that's my point. So, yeah, she's, yeah.
Although with Weir, I was always under the impression that with his wife, she had committed suicide and he blamed himself.
No, he does blame himself for her attempting to commit suicide. Yeah. But he caught her in time not to do it. That's what I believe happened. But you know what? Yeah, you're right. To each their own, maybe. Best scene in the film is with Justin. It's very good, very intense.
I know what one you're about to say, and it really freaks me out. The way what he goes through.
So when Justin goes in the airlock and he hits the, no escape clause, and he's about to be sucked out, it's the way they do it, where when the noise goes on, he's still hypnotized at this point, doesn't give a fuck. He hits the airlock button, no suits on, and then once the noise, alarm goes off, he wakes up out of his shock, his coma, whatever it was, and he realizes what he's done, and he can't reverse it. That to me the most terrifying part, because here's this guy. If they still kept him under hypnosis, you were like, oh, poor bastard. But once you take him out of hypnosis and he realizes what he's done,
it's awful. And you see his, the blood coming down his eyes and his veins are like about to pop and stuff.
Yeah. And then you got Miller, who's on this fucking thing. He's trying to zoom over there as fast as he can. Yes. And I'm not no fucking, spaceman guy, but I always wonder if this would work. He tells him to fetal position and breathe out of your lungs when that door opens.
I don't know.
And they show it's great. It's a great scene. I think once that door opens, he'd be dead.
I mean, obviously with films, they do, in general, they do play a bit of, they do play loose and fast, a fair bit with actual science whenever it's in space. For example, you wouldn't get an explosion in space, just due to the way that, space is a vacuum, apparently, according to the real scientists. But I'm not a scientist, and I do know that the films in general play loose and fast with the science of space, but you know what? It still works dramatically, 100%.
It is. Yeah, exactly. Even if law of physics don't apply, it's still a great scene and it works. I heard you freeze right away.
Yeah, I would imagine so. According to what I mean, again, I'm no scientist, sort of.
It's the temperature that gets you first, over the lack of actually, it's the temperature that gets you.
Yeah.
But with the music and Miller skedaddling to get to in time, it's the best scene in the film.
100%. Yeah.
Now Peters is gone. Now they're done. Miller's is asking anybody, you guys, I like it. It's quick. It's quick and fast. Anybody see anything, right? All right. Well, I am. Peters is, and look what happened to Justin. So we got to figure this thing out. Peters, go look at these tapes, see what we're missing.
Yeah.
There's a good conversation with Miller, and when he confronts Weir.
Yeah.
And he finally says, I've had enough. You fucking asshole. We need answers. What the hell is going on? And don't be a cocky prick. I need to know what's going on.
I love that Weir is a sort of, he's basically Ash in Aliens, the Weyland-Yutani guy, with the secret. Yes, it's a bit of a trope.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You got Kane and Ash in this film, pretty much.
Yes. And Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill are both, well, you know what I mean? They're the two leads, and they're both very, very strong, especially when they go up against each other.
I would have liked to see more deaths. Like I mentioned, you had a couple survivors, but I was kind of nice to see Justin kind of make it.
I was rooting for Justin.
But yeah, but Cooper and Starks had nothing really to offer, I think. And I'd rather have seen like Miller or not Miller. I like Miller's self-sacrifice. That's an arc for him. But I like DJ or somebody else who survived.
No, I agree.
Because you have these two extra characters who kind of didn't really contribute much, and they survive. Well, they should have been cannon fodder.
I know what you mean.
I would have liked to see more killing.
In terms of, I know because you're a sick bastard, but no, in terms of the drama and creating tension and the threat, it definitely would have helped, and it would have helped us take this threat, which we're already taking serious, from this entity that from hell on the ship. I would have, taken it a lot more serious. It still works what we do get, but I think that would have made it even better with maybe a couple more bumped off. I think you could argue that there's maybe too many in the crew, which you've sort of just suggested. So, yeah, more deaths, essentially, would have helped it.
I do like the scene where DJ, the medical officer, he's listening to the distress call. And he sits down with Miller. It's a quiet little scene. And he goes, I have to talk to you about something. It's Latin. And he goes, I might have miscommunicated you the last time.
Yeah.
I don't think he's saying liberate me, save me. But it's not me. He says, I think they're saying liberate tuda me, which is save yourself. But then he goes, but if you listen to it closely, there's also a line which is ex in veris, I believe that's what he says, which he's pretty much saying it's save yourself.
Yeah.
Now, here's the funny thing is, I know, okay, I get to nitpick once. I'm going to nitpick this part. I love it. I love the scene. I have nothing to do with the scene.
Go ahead.
But you got all these experts listening to this tape for fucking 7 years, right?
Yep.
Or this, whatever it is. Nobody could have figured that out. No one's could have, well, that's Latin. But this one guy.
Well, no. This is the first time that anyone has had access to these tapes, or even the Event Horizon itself, because it was missing.
No, because this is the distress signal that was sent to the NSA.
Was it?
Yes.
Right. Well, yeah, then it should have been worked out well before.
Exactly. That's okay. I'll move on.
Okay. Yeah. Again, I got the impression that these guys, that nobody had actually got the distress signal. Well, certainly not this one, and it just went missing without explanation.
No. Yeah. No. Because Weir brings on board and goes, "Here's the signal. Here's the message we got."
Yeah.
And he mentions it was NSA who got it. So
yeah, that should have been worked out well before.
But no big deal.
Weir, I think Weir would have known. But, well, maybe we can sort of explain it away in our heads by, yes, Weir concealed it from the authorities, because he knows. So he does.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have played for it then. I don't know. Anyway, no big deal. I just thought I have to hit it on something.
Yeah.
So we got the Clark up and running again after the two engineers fix it all up and patch it all up. This is where we see the big cannibal love orgy scene.
Yes.
And then we cut to after they see the cannibal orgy scene and people eating each other and fucking and doing whatever. You cut to Miller going, "Okay, we're leaving. Let's go." And then there's Weir, kind of like our boy Bishop, or not Bishop, more like Ash. Yeah, we can't leave, guys. We're not leaving. This is a one-way trip. And then this is where Peters. My favorite death, sad death, but it's Peters. I didn't see it coming because she's following what you think is your boy, and her instinct is to go follow him. But the ghost child, whatever, makes her fall to her death. And then you see her plummet, man. That's pretty good death. That's pretty good.
It's well realized, so it is, and you do feel for her.
Yeah.
So you do. Yeah, I do think that she was a bit. Unlike the sort of young, naive guy, she should have known better that this wasn't really her son.
No, I thought that too, but they're smart enough because they planted that seed quite a few times. The first time when she gets up, when she gets up and she's looking at the video of her boy celebrating her birthday, and then Miller approaches her, "I tried to get you off this for your son, but I couldn't get a replacement for you in time." So they planted that seed. She's got a lot of guilt.
I get it, and it is set up well. But I just thought, she's a woman maybe of her, in her possibly 40s. I just think she should have known a bit better that it wasn't really her son. But yes, no, it is sort of set up earlier on with the video of her son and stuff, missing the birthday. They all suffer from guilt here in some shape or form. Well, the main characters anyway,
Yeah, the main ones we care about. That's why the other ones should have been cannon fodder. But anyways, Smith dies here. Smith gets it. It's unfortunate, but that's because we are set the explosive on one of those mini explosives onto the Lewis and Clark.
Yes.
And that's a nice little scene too, because Miller's looking around. He figures out, Jesus, he's removed one of the explosives, and he tells Smith, get out of there now. But he's looking for it instead. And when he does find it, it's like 5 seconds left. And he's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Now, what a really fun scene and intense scene. It's just kind of piggybacking on what we talked about with Justin in the airlock. I really like those two scenes. But again, you kind of put me out of it when Cooper gets blown off the ship and he's on a piece of the wing and he's floating off into space and he's like, oh crap. I was like, this doesn't belong to this film.
It ruins the intense tone, well, for all of the rest of it somewhat. It doesn't ruin it completely, but it does definitely feel out of place where he's making like quirky one-liners. He's like, like flying through space, like something from a Marvel film going, motherfucker, or, stuff like that, with quirky one-liners.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. And that's my point. It's like, here you got this ass clown going, ooh, blah, blah, blah. And then we cut to one of my favorite characters, DJ, getting gutted alive and put up like Hannibal Lecter did the guard and then he's hanging out with his guts and he's pretty much been sacrificed. And then you cut to, oh my God, folks. It's like, what the fuck?
It's out of place. So it is.
Miller is dealing with the Burning Man at the same time. That's been haunting him as he's trying to plant the detonators. This is where we meet, Pinhead without the pins.
Exactly. Yeah. Great makeup, I would say as well.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, very good makeup. It's very hard to do that kind of makeup without the actor's face looking fatter because it's all latex. So to be able to do that and pull it out is pretty
all the slices and sort of lacerations and stuff, it's all very well done. And Sam Neill, he maybe he can be a little pantomime villain in these roles, but he's great to watch.
Well, what he pulls out, what Sam Neill does, he doesn't overact.
No, he just about gets it right.
So he and he did that with the Mouth of Madness. When I saw him with all the cuts in his face, it reminded me when he had all those crosses on his face.
Yeah. Yes.
In the Mouth of Madness. But Miller self-sacrifices himself because that's his personal journey because he's taking care of the crew, but also to make amends for leaving his buddy behind.
Yeah, and it's a really
burned alive.
It's a really bleak ending for Miller, and you feel for him with this. Not only is it a self-sacrifice, he's going to hell. You know what I mean? He goes into the black hole. And it's pretty, it's quite harrowing when you really think about it,
It sucks because if I was him, I would have ran to the corridor and then hit the button. Because that way, you just blow up. You won't be going to hell.
Well, this is it, exactly. You know what I mean? It's lesser of two evils. And apparently there has been talk over the years of there being an Event Horizon TV series where they would have followed up on the Miller character and what actually happened to him. And Lawrence Fishburne said that he was up for it, but it's never happened. But I think it's better maybe just left as it is because, yes, it's a self-sacrifice arc. And, while it is pretty bleak and harrowing, it's fitting for the character. You know what I mean? It's heroic.
Yeah,
it's heroic.
I don't think going back to or try to save him or whatever would make sense because he's in hell. He's fucked.
Well, bring him back as a villain.
You're not going to have you're not going to have Schwarzenegger come in. We'll get him back, and he'll be running to tunnels of hell.
Yeah, he was just hanging off the edge of like the pit. But no. The only way if they did do a series or whatever, and they did bring him back, they could have him as the weird character who was the villain.
But there you go. All the ones who had their demons, besides Smith and DJ, they got their comeuppance.
Yeah.
Stark, Cooper, and Justin survive. And that's it for the Event Horizon.
I mean, I remember first watching this whenever it was originally released on video, and like it would have been 97, 98, and not expecting too much, but really being blown away and really enjoying it and loving it. And that hasn't changed over the years. I still really like this film.
Yeah, it's a good film. It doesn't overstay its welcome.
Yeah.
So, and that's what's good about it. And you still liked all the characters.
Yep.
I would like to have seen more of the people who did survive, given more to it than just surviving. I felt the people who died and I don't know, I just felt everyone should have, again, we don't know what happened with the editing, but Jolie Richardson and Richard T. Jones deserved a little more better, or kill him right away in the beginning and have just Justin survive.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see a 2-hour version of this. What we get is like an hour and 35 minutes or something. I would like maybe a 2-hour version, but not even so much for the hell, sex, orgy stuff, for actual character development and setting up the characters, because I do think a lot of that is lost with what edits were made.
Yeah. Besides Justin, you should have went. At least Stark made it.
Yes.
But I didn't care if she made it or not. I rather cared if Miller made it.
You weren't invested enough.
Yeah, the people who died, you were like, oh, damn, that sucks. The people who made it, you're like,
yeah. But maybe that was the point. So maybe he was trying to turn things on its head. Who knows?
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
All right, guys, thanks for joining us here on the Event Horizon. We are back with the Mission Impossibles, I promise. And we got busy time coming. A lot of stuff coming out, and it's going to be fun summer. So listen, guys, thanks for giving us listen. Give us a shout if you're interested in wanting us to do something else, or give us your thoughts of our little podcast here. Give us a shout at CitizenFrame_podcast on Instagram, and of course Facebook. The new issue of Phantasmagoria is out now, available Amazon worldwide, and of course locally at Forbidden Planet here in Belfast, and locally in other stores peppered around the U.S. That's all I've got.
Cool. We're
going to end this one. Okay. Good ending there, Trevor.
Right?
Wow. The one time he fucking shuts up. The one time he shuts up.
I'm generally a very quiet and sort of softly spoken person,
Oh, fuck me.
Unreserved. Yeah.
All right, guys, take care of yourselves. We'll chat soon. All the best.